The Apple Valley Model Railroad Club presents Modeling Basics 101. This six-part series introduces you to the exciting world of model railroading, covering everything from initial layout design to final scenery. For more information about the Apple Valley Model Railroad Club, visit their website at avmrc.com. Part 2, Laying Track.
All right, good morning, guys. We're in session 2. This is on different types of road bed and what we can do with that. Also, we'll be learning how to lay track. So with further ado, I'm going to give you Mike. Mike here is going to tell us everything he knows about road bed and how to lay track and all the components to that. So Mike, take it over.
Okay. For everyone that's sitting in here, there's another way to lay track. Okay? But in accordance with what we're building here with the modules, what I wanted to show you today was an alternative method to building your railroad. You've now built a flat top module, and from there everything builds up from datum 0 up. An alternative way to build is an open system, which you would use hard shell scenery or foam or something else, in which case what we do is we use an open grid system to mount the track rather than a flat top, okay? Most of your railroad inside is built such as this. So what we do is we take and modify, very simply, that frame and add to it on the sides a 1x2 or a 1x1 piece. We just glue it to the side of the top of your rails on the sides. And this becomes an L girder now, just shaped like the letter L. So we use an L girder system. And this is well known throughout the entire hobby as an L girder system. The reason why we do that is so that we can put joists on, and these would be joists, and we can span these joists. Now, the nice thing about this is when you use a joist, you can make your scenery as deep as you want or as shallow as you want just by adjusting the length of your joists. So, for instance, if you have a 24-inch table, that doesn't mean that you're limited to 24 inches on a radius of a track, if that's what you want us to do, but you can actually take these joists and make them 48 inches long on a 24-inch sub bed. So the bed will support fully your 48 inches. So you have a great amount of flexibility to adjust when you're using an L girder system. Okay? With this, you can also, if you really wanted to, if you're going to do a yard and you're going to do a deep yard, you can go back to a joist and make your joist 48 inches long if you want, and then put a 48-inch piece of plywood on the top, if that's what you so desire, as a flat top where your datum is always at 0. Okay? The open grid system, though, that we use, an L girder system, I use joists, which are these cross members, and risers, and then my road bed. What this allows you to do is to introduce gradients, up, downhill, right? And it allows you to do scenery which can flow from track down or track up. Very simple, just add risers to whatever your support system is. Many people use, and you'll get into that when they do the module on scenery, many people, and I use hard shell scenery. I would simply take some risers. If I were doing elevated scenery and my railroad were in that 45-degree plane, I would elevate risers in the back and simply take masking tape or cardboard webbing and create the substrate for the hard shell, if I'm doing scenery like that. If you want to do lakes or streams or whatever, this affords you the ability to do the depth that you don't have on a flat top. So it's just another alternative way to do your structures. The one thing that I find with this is that With L-girder system, everything screws together very easily, and everything screws from underneath. Nothing ever screws from the top down. Reason for that, obviously, once you put scenery over it and you cover your screws, you'll never find them again in case you want to make an adjustment. So everything here screws from bottom up. The joists screw from bottom up, the risers screw sides, but then track road bed screws from bottom up again. So you can get up underneath, unscrew it, or unscrew your risers, make your elevation change, and then rescrew. It's a very simple method. Tom?
So, based on what you've done there with your boards that are going across.
The joists, yes.
Joists.
Uh-huh.
It is now higher than what we've all done because we've just got a flat top.
No, it is not.
It's not. So
It is not.
explain to me why it's not.
Because the legs have been compensated for this height.
Okay.
So what I added on the height, I subtracted on the legs. So in theory, this should mate with your flat tops.
So my next question is on the riser where your road bed is going to sit.
Yes.
Is that going to be on the same level as the ones that we built, or is that just a demonstration of how you get something where it's multi-dimensional levels?
This road bed was set at the height to match your flat tops.
Okay.
Okay? And the legs were adjusted accordingly. So I chopped the legs and added the top. Okay? The other neat thing is, you can take and you can incorporate this into your flat tops and you can do some depressed scenery. How many times is a railroad, going along a ridge line and you have all depressed scenery on both sides? So it affords you a great adjustment in scenery and latitude in how you want to do your scenery. So it's a neat kind of way to do that. Just an alternative to just a flat top, run my trains on a flat top surface. Okay? Now Tom asked me about foam board as a track surface. Okay? So some people use construction foam. This is a insulating foam. Okay? And some people will tend to use this as a foam. I do not, because there is a certain amount of flexibility in it. Although it's temperature stable and it's humidity stable, it's a good product. But what it doesn't lend itself to is if you are doing switching and you have switches. And by the way, this is only 1 inch. I would use the 1 3/8 for rigidity. But be it as it may, when you're using foam like this or thicker, you're going to have the issue with how do I mount my switch motors or controls underneath. Bonding to foam is not the easiest thing in the world. There are foam safe adhesives, and that's fine. But then you have the problem with if I'm going to do mounting tortoises, for instance, to switch my track leads, how do I mount a tortoise to this? You can't screw into it, so you have to make subplates out of plywood or some other material, mount the tortoise to a plywood, and then mount that to the base underneath. And then again, you're limited to how you can do that, and I find it very clunky because when you're setting tortoises in particular, they're kind of touchy as to centering and how you get them mounted. And the only way that I can really figure that you can mount a plywood mounted tortoise to the underside is to glue this. And when you glue it, then you have to wait for glue to set. And what happens if you're slightly off? Tortoise is going to bind, or the track is not going to switch properly. So you're going to have issues with that. So personally, I just find it more problematic than what the gains are in using foam. Foam deadens sound or whatever, but I think sound is what you guys want in a railroad. Yeah.
Is there an issue with, I'm already committed to foam. Is there an issue with surface mount manual switching?
No. Well, again, I say that with a caveat. How are you going to mount that surface mount switch?
probably have to glue it. There's no other option, actually.
Well, to plywood, but if you were saying to foam,
Yeah.
how would you mount it to foam?
I'm gonna put cork road bed down first,
Okay.
and then mount the switches to the cork road bed.
And what is going to be the stabilizing medium to hold that ground throw in?
It's gonna have to be glue. There's no other option.
You're going to have to glue it down somehow because you can't anchor it with screws, you can't anchor it with fasteners. There's nothing that's really going to hold into this.
No, you can pin it and then wait for the glue to dry.
You can pin it and wait for the glue to dry.
Because I'm probably gonna use those little,
Yes, sure, the caboose throws or whatever, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's again, another way to do it. But again, you're introducing other mediums that you have to use to make something happen.
right.
Okay? So the other way that you can do that is just carve out, well, you can carve out a small section. If you're doing it on quarter ply or 5mm ply, just carve out a section to mount that ply down, glue the plywood down, and then mount the throw directly to the plywood.
Yeah, except I'm using open grid with 2-inch foam.
Okay. So again, what I would do with that is, if particularly with throws or anything where you have mechanical motion, you might consider carving out, if you can, just an area, set plywood in there, glue that in, and use that as your mounting medium.
Oh, okay.
So now your ground throw is mounted to plywood, which has a much larger surface that is glued to the foam. Much better chance of success with that, okay? Because the throw only has about 1 square inch of area. That's not a whole lot of area to stay glued, to board. So, all right? So take like a 3x3 or a 2x3 or something like that of just thin plywood. Doesn't need to be, anything real thick, just enough to hold the friction of a nail in place.
Right. Sounds good.
That's what I would do with that. Okay. When I do the joists, I do joists basically every 16 inches, roughly on center. It gives you great stability. You can, once you build something like this, you can hang a gorilla from this thing and not worry about it. Okay. Foam, if you want to go through, the foam and work with foam, that's fine too. But understand, mounting becomes the issues, with motion devices. And the same problem that you're going to have if you do tortoises. You have to mount tortoises to a subplate. The subplate then has to mount to the foam because you need that securement of a larger area that's in place. Okay? Yeah.
Would it be smart to make the entire switch complex on a piece of plywood and then put that into the foam?
Yes. That's certainly another option. What I would do is try to minimize the area of foam where I have to physically mount objects. Yeah. So, give yourself as much rigidity as you can to hold the fasteners that you're going to use in place, and use that surface area, as the mounting point to the foam. The foam will do well, and the foam will hold with adhesives that are foam-safe adhesives. You just need enough surface area to get it to work. Okay? So what I did today was, or the other day, was the standards that the modules use are 5 inches and 7 inches for, we're going to talk about mounting track. They're 5 inches and 7 inches on track center from the face edge of the module. So what I did here was I've got 2 lines. One is at 5 inches from this face edge. It's not from the L, it's from the face. 5 inches, and another one at 7 inches. Those are my track center lines. Okay? Brought a square up, transposed those lines up to the upper surface, and we're going to still maintain 5 inches and 7 inches on centers so that when you mount your base modules with the flat tops, these should line up nicely with your flat top modules at 5 inches and 7 inches center lines. Okay?
So Mike, can you talk to us about the different types of road bed? I know what you
Yeah.
are bringing out is torque, but give us some other types of roadbed, and maybe some pros and cons to that, if there are any?
Well, some people use Homasote, thin Homasote, which is nothing more than compressed, shredded chipboard, cardboard, cereal boxes, for instance. They use that. There is a formed roadbed that is with that. Very stable, quiet. Woodland Scenics makes a rubberized or a rubber roadbed as well, and that can be glued down, screwed down, nailed down, which is fine. And then we have cork. I tend to use cork for one particular reason, and I'm not sure if the others have it, but it's ease of layment, really. When you get cork roadbed from Midwest Cork or whoever the manufacturer is, these are particularly from Midwest Cork, they're the most popular around, okay? You'll notice that there's a cut line down the center, okay? That cut line is at a 45-degree angle, okay? So when you get the cork roadbed, you split it, and then you have a straight edge on the back side and a beveled edge on the outside. And the beveled edge then becomes your slopes for your ballast. And the straight line, then you can put up against a straight line, or it gives you the ability to monitor how you're doing around curves or what have you. You can actually line it up, and you can have your track center line maintained all the time through means of the cork roadbed. So once you lose your line, because you're going to cover it, your line is maintained by the center line of the cork roadbed if you put it down properly, okay? So you always keep your track alignment through the cork roadbed, which is transposed from the top surface, which is the pencil mark.
So our 5-inch and our 7-inch center lines are where the cork bed is going to line up that straight edge.
The straight edge lines up against the 5 inches.
The edge is on the outside.
That's correct.
And that's what keeps us in line throughout the build process.
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
So you can always maintain your center line. So that's why I like using the Midwest Cork. It gives you that center line all the way down. So you keep your straight lines, you keep your curves, you keep everything in alignment.
So a question in roadbed on a curve. Do you have to cut part of the roadbed so that it makes that curve, or would the roadbed actually rip or something?
It depends on your radius. The roadbed, this cork roadbed has a good amount of flexibility because it's actually a rubberized cork. It's rubber and cork composition. So it does two things. It sound deadens, it holds nails very well, but it also gives you the ability to do flexible, flex track. So you can do pretty good radii, with this without having to relief cut it, to make the curves. And it'll do that without bunching up and binding. So it's a good product to use. I mean, the rubber products are good to use as well. They'll do the same thing to a large degree. But this will maintain your center lines, and you can, like I say, in HO, you're going to be doing at least a 32, probably 32-inch radii. Am I right, Bill? 32-inch? 36. Okay, yeah, 36-inch radius. Okay, so this right here, if you take that, will probably give you 36-inch radius without any trouble whatsoever, without any kind of issue, without bunching or scrunching up. So that's what I would do. The simplest way to put this down, I've used a number of methods. Actually, in my company, I have some double-sided adhesive. I didn't bring some today, but it's kind of interesting to play with. I have some double-sided adhesive transfer tape that I've laid down track with 5-6 years ago. And that track is still nailed down as tight as ever.
Mike, can you use different types of roadbed or interchange roadbed, is that a good thing? Is it not a good thing? Or could you do, like based on different sections, have different types of roadbed?
You could, but you have to watch your track alignment on the vertical alignment of the railheads, you know, because each one is going to be slightly different in thickness. This, I believe, is about 1/8 inch thick. As long as all of your roadbed is 1/8 inch thick, you should not have a problem. But the best bet is to stick with a manufacturer. Pick one manufacturer and stay with that as a standard, because then you won't have any problems whatsoever. Mixing and matching is always going to be problematic somewhere down the line, okay? And particularly when you get into, you know, track, you know, trying to match track with one manufacturer to another manufacturer, they're all slightly different. And you'll have issues there that you didn't intend to have. So I try to stick with one manufacturer. I don't care whether you pick Pico or Atlas or whoever it is. Pick one and stick with it. Best way to do it.
Another question?
Sure.
So you're on your main line, and let's say you're going to a secondary track that would be maybe into a yard that has no roadbed. How do you do that?
Okay. So what you do with that is you always have to just look at gradients. And when you get into laying track, that's a little more in depth. But what I would typically do is I would take that 1/8 inch cork and I would sand it down gradually to make a very gradual decline to get into the zero datum, which is back onto your plywood. Okay. You can't just kind of say, okay, I'm going from 1/8 of an inch down. Trains don't like that. So it would be a transition, just like you have a transition curve going into a curve, you need a transition descent or a transition ascent going in. So you don't want any more than 1 degree of pitch at any point in time. And if you know what 1 degree of pitch is, you know, look on a dial gauge or put your phone on. Most of your phones now have, you know, indicators that can tell you what a degree of pitch is. Anything greater than 1 degree of pitch is going to cause uncoupling of your cars. And that becomes another problem, okay? If you're transitioning from 100 gauge, 100 rail track to 73, code 73 or code 83, code 83 track, sometimes you need to do a little bit of filing to get that rail head down to where it'll transition into your sidings from the code 100 into the code 183, because you have rail height differences in all the different codes, okay? So, you know, those are just things to contemplate and think about. Nothing that can't be overcome with a file, a rasp, or sandpaper, okay? Everything in this hobby is file, rasp, sandpaper, drill and screw, okay? Other than that, no big secrets, okay? So, but yeah.
Yeah, the only interest question, rather than coming back down to the datum for, I'm gonna put a small yard in.
Okay.
I was thinking about transitioning from the cork to the same thickness plywood and scroll saw cut it
Yep.
to match the rails.
Okay.
And then that becomes a roadbed.
So you're going to ribbon rail, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be a good method.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing says that you need roadbed. You know, you can build shoulders with ballast, you know, to simulate the, you know, low rail or sidings or what have you. And that's a very acceptable way to do it. Not a problem with that at all. Not at all, okay? So with that, we're going to, the intention today is we're going to just glue down, like I said, excuse me, before I go there, I've used transfer tapes, double stick, but very high-end double stick tapes to mount cork to the plywood. And like I say, I've had it down on layouts for over 5 years, never had an issue. Okay? Not only that, once you ballast, once you ballast your track, the ballast is going to hold your track into position, whether you have track nails in or anything underneath or anything holding this down. It's all going to be stable. Sir?
If you're using a double stick tape, do you go with the thinnest millimeter thickness, or does it really matter the thickness of that double adhesive?
Oh, the double stick tapes are only about 2 mils or 4 mils thick.
Right.
Yeah, they're not foam double sticks. They're not foam tapes.
Okay, so you want to avoid, I'm not talking something like 4 to 6 millimeters thick. I'm talking something like less than a millimeter.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
the Gorilla double adhesive tape. It's a bit thicker than like the Scotch adhesive tape.
Okay.
As far as like the millimeter.
Which is fine.
As far as the width goes, that
Yeah.
can.
Sure. No, that's perfectly fine.
Because you're covering most of that up with your ballast.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Your double sticks, the ones that we use, are generally 4 to 6 mils thick.
Okay.
Okay. So you're perfectly fine with that. Yeah, it doesn't matter as long as everything's on the same plane.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Okay. So, the concept is we're going to get this road bed down. Today we're going to glue it down, put a couple of staples in it just to hold it, and then we'll maintain the track center line, and then we can mount track on it. Okay. One thing, if we want to roll into track mounting, I did bring track nails. If you go to train shows and you ever see one of these, know what that is? All right, the old guys know what it is. Okay, that's a nail setter. Okay, and what it is you actually push the nails into the track, and there's a collar that you can preset for the depth. And the reason for that is when you're pressing down, and I don't like pounding nails. You got one? There you go.
Little hammer.
Okay.
Hammer goes in there.
Yep, perfect. Perfect. Okay. When I'm laying track, the last thing I want to do is be pounding nails on plastic ties. Okay? Number one, you don't have a good feel for how tight to make that nail, and it'll have a tendency, especially if you're on foam, to pull the center tie down, and that pulls your gauge in. Problems, okay? So what we want to do is set the track nails at some realistic height, which is just the surface of the tie. And if you use a track nail pusher and you preset the collar, it'll only push as high as that tie height, if that's where you set it. So you can use that, put a nail in, and just push it in, and you just want to press the nails really into the surface. The function of the track nails is really only to hold the rails. I look at it as a temporary solution to a long-term project. And that is that I put track nails in just to hold the track where I want it, to make certain that weather, temperature changes, climate doesn't warp or change the aspect of the rail. Once it's stabilized, I'm going to go in and I'm going to ballast the rail. And once I ballast the rail, everything is going to lock up solid. I go back and pull out all my track nails. Don't need them anymore. I have absolutely no need for them. You're going to find one at a train show, probably in the dollar bin somewhere. Some guy who doesn't know what it is looking to get rid of it.
You want Micro-Mark.
Oh, Micro-Mark's got them? Cool. The other tool that I find very handy for old farts who have shaky hands is forceps, especially curved forceps. Okay? You can hold the track nail with that, put it where you want it, tack it from here. Okay? It's a lot easier than trying to, how the heck do I hold that little nail in that hole and then find it with a tack hammer? So I use as many different tools as I can to make my life easier as I get older. It gets more and more difficult to do these projects. Okay? And that is like setting tiny nails in tiny holes is problematic. So I'd rather hold it with a pair of tweezers in place to be able to tack it. Once I have it tacked, I'm home free. Okay? Tom?
Can we step back
You referenced the word ballast.
Yes.
How you do that. Can you explain what ballast is and how you actually put that? Is that something that is put down in between the rails or on the outside of the rails? And is that what's holding the track in place?
Your answer is yes, yes, and yes. Ballast is crushed stone. It's about 1.5 inch stone. It's rough cut stone that the railroads use. And when they ballast the track, ballast is used to hold track in place. It's just the stonework that holds the rails and keeps them from shifting. And the same thing in model railroading. When we ballast the track, I ballast the track so that there is a center of ballast between the rails and also then side slopes for your gradients. So yes, I ballast the track.
So is the ballast glued on or?
It is glued down.
So how does, when you do the ballast, are you losing the, inside the rails, the ties? So are they covered completely? Or?
No, no. Walk any railroad track and you will see that the ballast is always below the height of the surface of the rails.
So
It's only between the rails,
so
between the ties and between the rails, I'm sorry.
so
The roadbed is not the ballast. Sir?
I did ballast once, and the way I did it was I mixed some Elmer's glue with water, made it liquidy. And
Absolutely.
then I used a brush and brushed it on the ballast.
Well, if you use the brush, I'm going to send you home. I'm going to send you home. You're 98% of the way there. Okay? Get rid of the brush. Okay?
Oh, yeah, I think I used a little squirt bottle. Yeah, that's what I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You have to, right, okay. What we have is you have the substrate that we're mounting on, your roadbed, and we're going to presume that the roadbed now is mounted down solid. And then we're going to take our piece of track and we're going to mount that so that the mounting holes in the track are aligned on the center line of the cork roadbed. That keeps everything lined up, right? No big deal. Okay. Once we're tacked into place, everything is now down solid. It's time to ballast. So the presumption is now that we have tacked down, we've glued down the roadbed, we've tacked down the track along the center line, and you're ready to ballast. Okay. My personal opinion is start from the center and then work out. It's much easier. And the reason for that is because you can get sloppy in here, and what I do is I take the ballast, put it in a smaller container, okay, or a tablespoon or something of that nature, and don't be afraid with it, just pour it. You're just gonna pour it in and be done with that, okay? Tom, you asked a question. What about ballast on the top of the rails? Okay. At this point, you can just simply take a finger and just run it across a couple times, and your ballast basically is set down between your rails. You're going to have a little bit that's up on the top, not a big deal. That you can clean up in a heartbeat afterwards, okay? But you could take a light brush and just kind of dust across the top of the rails, and there your ballast is now set in between the rails. Okay.
If you have like a road, like if you want to do like out here, cars going across.
Let's take one thing at a time. Okay. All right. So once you've got it in here, the common method is to take 50-50 white glue. Any white glue, could be Elmer's glue, whatever, a thin juice of Elmer's glue and water. Okay. The problem with ballast is that it's going to be anti-hygroscopic. It doesn't want to accept water. So the best thing you could do is you take a spray bottle with a little bit of alcohol in it. I don't care if it's 70%, 90%, whatever it is. Psst, 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 spray it. That will break the surface tension of the water. And now the ballast will accept the water and the glue mixture. And what I would do is just pour the glue mixture right in between the rails. I don't worry about how much, how little, just pour it in until you see it coming out the sides of the rail. Once you have that, then you know that you have full saturation of the ballast in the center. After you've done all your center rails on your layout, then you can go and shape the ballast on the sides. And again, it's a pour, shape, mix. So when I get to shaping the ballast on the sides, I'll mist that with some alcohol, mix it with a little bit of 50-50 white glue, and actually take an artist's spatula or a small flexible tool of any sort, and you can actually shape this as if it's putty. And you can shape your ballast up on the side. But now you can do that because your rail is locked in, it's centered, it's locked solid, and it's ballasted, and you don't have to worry about it moving on you. So you always do, I always do, personally, the center first. Don't worry about shaping the outsides. I don't worry about that at all. I only ballast the centers. And then come back after that is cured, which takes about a day for it to dry out. It's about all it takes. And then the next day, come back, and then you can shape your ballast on the sides. The same thing. Take your ballast, pour it down. You don't need to be, too. You don't need to be too careful about it. It helps. I find that using a tablespoon and pouring it from a tablespoon along the sides gives you a good, it gives you a good amount of ballast on the slope. Yeah, it gives you good control. So rather than using a cup, okay? For purposes here, I don't have a spoon, so we'll use the cup. But again, you would shape that, mist it with alcohol, 50-50 white glue, wait 24 hours, your road bed is done. Once you do that, you can go in and you can pull every track nail out and that rail will never move on you. Okay?
You advocate, add a little bit of liquid detergent to the glue mixture?
Yeah, absolutely. You can put a drop of liquid detergent in. You need to break the surface tension. That's the key. And whether it's that or I use alcohol only because it's just convenient. Sure, yeah. Yeah, sure. It's just convenient. So I buy it dirt cheap, at the local dollar store. Put a spray head in it and just the whole thing. So you don't want to be around me and smoke when I'm laying track.
So once all that's done, then what do you use? I'm guessing you're going to clean the rail. You just use an alcohol base and just go over the rail to clean it?
Nope. I would take a pick, just a sharp pick, and run it inside the web of the rail to pick out any ballast that's stuck on the inside web. You don't care about what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. Okay? And just pick out what's in there, and I would just take it and just run it, and it'll pick every piece off. Not a problem, okay? Anything that you get on the surface of the rail, well, you're gonna take that off with a little bit of a light scrub. So that could be a little 600 paper, 800 paper, or any kind of abrasive, or anything that you want to get the glue off the top, okay? Most of it'll pop off if you just run a flat piece of metal across that, because the 50-50 Elmer's glue really doesn't stick to brass or nickel silver, so it'll pop right off. So you'll get 98% of that. Yeah, Bill?
Another ballast dispenser that I've used is a seasoning bottle that has little flip lids on it.
Oh, yeah.
You can pour your seasoning and then you can control it.
Anything that gives you control. Yeah, it's fine.
Commercially, I see, like at Micromark, a ballast spreader.
I've used 10 different kinds and I haven't found one that works yet. Okay. The method of pour it down the center, wipe it down till the rails are clean, or the rail heights are clean, and then just glue it in place. If you start with that, you don't need to worry about your side slopes and ballast spreaders. Save your money. Save your money. I haven't found one that works yet.
This concludes the lecture portion of Part 2, Laying Track. For more information about the Apple Valley Model Railroad Club, visit their website at avmrc.com. www.thebrandingcoach.com.